Seoul to Jeju is the busiest air route in the entire world, and it's incredibly fascinating. Yes, it's busier than routes like Beijing to Shanghai, London to New York, or Tokyo to Chitose, both by aircraft movements and available seats. Because of the immense amount of traffic on this route, there are tons of different airlines and aircraft at varying price points. In this video, we're going to take a look at one of South Korea's low-cost airlines, Jin Air, and their high-density Boeing 777s that they run on the Seoul-Gimpo to Jeju route. Is Jin Air a competitive choice despite flying nearly 400-seat all-economy Boeing 777s, or should you travel with other airlines? Join me as we experience the full Jin Air product in both extra legroom and standard economy between Seoul and Jeju. During my week-long stay in Korea, I actually flew the Seoul to Jeju route 3 separate times and had the opportunity to experience both extra legroom and standard economy on Jin Air. This trip report will be a combination of those flights, so if you see footage from different days or times, that's why. As mentioned earlier, the Seoul to Jeju route is incredibly competitive, with 9 airlines all offering service using a wide mix of aircraft and price points. To highlight this, 4 days from the time of this script's writing, tickets can be found as cheap as $7 one way, which is astonishing even by low-cost carrier standards. Jin Air, founded in 2008, is a low-cost Korean air subsidiary that often has ticket prices just as affordable. They fly Boeing 737s and Boeing 777s between their Seoul bases to nearby domestic Korean destinations and across East and Southeast Asia. They're not always this cheap. For my trip, I spent about $30 for my regular economy seat and $40 for an extra legroom seat, as Jin Air charges a $10 surcharge. But even at these prices, these fares remained very competitive. The journey begins at Seoul-Gimpo International Airport, 9 miles or 15 kilometers west of the city center. Gimpo is primarily reserved for domestic flights, with Incheon handling most international flights. However, several international airlines and destinations are still served from Gimpo. As is custom in much of the world outside of the Americas, check-in is still a very physical process, with baggage, seating, and other ancillary needs handled at the counter before security. Everything is handled prior to security, unlike in the States, where we often make changes at the gate itself. Lines do form, but the staff were both quick and efficient, which kept things moving quickly. I booked my tickets online for both of my Jin Air flights. However, I did need to check in physically for one leg as I wanted to inquire about changing my seat. Again, there was no wait and hassle at the check-in counter. One criticism I do have regarding Jin Air so far, which unfortunately is a trend among several Asian airlines, is a very unreliable website and app for booking or checking in. My app would routinely crash or display a white screen and needed to be rebooted. I struggled trying to select and change my seats for both trips, and while I eventually figured it out, the process felt far clunkier than it needed to be and than what I'm used to with most US or European airlines. This shouldn't come as a surprise, but I don't speak Korean, yet the staff were all bi or trilingual and able to help customers in multiple different languages. There was no issue whatsoever, and it was impressive watching them switch between languages so fluently. Jin Air also has a generous baggage allowance, especially for a low-cost carrier. You're allowed a free checked bag at all price points along with a carry-on bag. From my understanding, Jin Air, like many other Korean domestic carriers, measures baggage by weight rather than number of bags. The policy is generous and affordable to extend if needed, at only 10,000 won for an extra 5 kilograms. If anyone knows more about the exact rules, I would be interested in hearing about it, and please feel free to correct me in the comments. Making my way to security, you can see from earlier footage just how busy this route truly is. There are multiple flights all departing within minutes of each other or at the same time to the same destination. The line for security was long, but it moved very quickly. One interesting note is that for Korean domestic flights, there are no restrictions on liquids, gels, or foods. You can bring drinks through security, which is a really refreshing and interesting change of pace. It also goes to show how Koreans view and treat these types of air routes. Seoul to Jeju is like a bus or taxi service, with the frequency and number of flights available at their cheap price points. Post-security, both Gimpo and Jeju offer plenty of duty-free shopping options. Gimpo is a clean, open airport with comfortable seating, charging stations, and good restroom availability. Jeju, on the other hand, is a bit over capacity and underdeveloped. Given the massive increase in travel to Jeju, its current facilities were simply not built to handle this level of demand. There are plans for a second relief airport as well as renovations to Jeju's current terminal to help alleviate this issue. During peak travel times, it can get chaotic. Airlines aren't just flying 150 to 200 seat Airbus A320s or Boeing 737s. They're operating 3 to 400 seat Airbus A330 and Boeing 777 wide-body aircraft. With many of these departing in clusters, crowding in the terminal is inevitable. I arrived early for all of my flights, which gave me plenty of time to charge my devices, watch the airplanes, and get something to eat. As our aircraft arrived, this brings us to one of the most interesting aspects of domestic Korean air travel: turnarounds and boarding. Jin Air scheduled our boarding to begin 15 minutes before departure, with the door closing 5 minutes prior to departure. That leaves only 10 minutes to board a nearly 400-seat airplane, and yet they somehow consistently managed to do this. I cannot give enough credit to the efficiency here. They can, and in this case did, turn around an entire Boeing 777 in 1 hour. That is ridiculously efficient and quick. As soon as the airplane would arrive at the gate, the ground crew would run to the airplane and try to get everything set up as quickly as possible. Once boarding time approached, everyone started getting ready. Depending on whether you're in extra legroom, by the windows, or in regular economy, there are several boarding zones. However, in practice, everyone just lined up at once and moved forward in a controlled flow onto the airplane. It was a little bit of a stampede, and there wasn't a lot of order depending on boarding positions, but it ended up working out. Stepping aboard Jin Air's Boeing 777s, you'll notice that the aircraft feel dated but cozy. All of these airplanes are ex-Korean Air Boeing 777-200ERs, manufactured between 2005 and 2007. The seats are comfortable and the legroom is solid. In the extra legroom seats, you get 36 inches of pitch, more than enough to fully stretch out. In regular economy, the pitch is 30 inches. I'm 6'1" and I had no complaints whatsoever regarding the legroom. The seats have soft cloth stitching, a patterned design, and an adjustable headrest with folding wings. As is common in Asia, there's a more than generous 3-inch recline with the seats. The seat back includes an extendable tray table and the usual seat pocket materials. Jin Air is a low-cost carrier, so meals and drinks must be purchased, but the prices were reasonable. With the flight only lasting an hour, I decided to skip ordering a meal. Universal 110-volt charging outlets are also provided under the seats, and there's a large seatback pouch for your belongings. The armrests also include a reading light button and cabin call button. The cabin crew were incredibly professional, and their coordination during boarding and the safety demonstrations was impressive. They simply do not make mistakes or are uncoordinated in their movements. It's incredible to watch. Boarding was completed in about 10 minutes and we pushed back on time. I've uploaded separate videos of both takeoffs if you'd like to watch those, but for this video I'll be showcasing the afternoon flight. Once at cruising altitude, the flight was quiet and uneventful. With the seat reclined, I was extremely comfortable. On my nighttime Jeju to Seoul flight, I actually fell asleep for the entirety of the flight after takeoff and begrudgingly missed the entire descent and approach into Seoul at night. Even on the daytime flight, I found myself getting drowsy. A 343 layout in all economy is dense for the Boeing 777, but Jin Air has configured the cabin in a way that still feels comfortable. Currently, there is no Wi-Fi on Jin Air, except for a few of their newer Boeing 737 MAX jets, so you'll need to bring your own entertainment, though for an hour-long flight, this wasn't much of an issue. Coincidentally enough, right after I wrote this script, Korean Air just announced that their entire airline and their subsidiaries, such as Jin Air, will be getting Starlink high-speed Wi-Fi. So, in the coming months, you'll be able to experience free high-speed internet on Jin Air. The cabin crew did walk through to take and deliver drink and snack orders, but overwhelmingly, most passengers opted to skip this service. We then began our descent over the southern coastline of Korea and into Jeju. From my experience, Jin Air is a good airline. The flights were on time, the crew were professional, the aircraft were clean and comfortable, and the fares were exceptionally cheap. There's not much more I would ask for aside from maybe free Wi-Fi, and that's coming in 2026. Jin Air does fly their Boeing 777s to Guam, a nearly 4.5-hour flight, so I do have some reservations about how comfortable that would be, but for a 1-hour domestic flight, Jin Air is excellent. This is one of the top low-cost airline experiences I've had in recent times. I was completely satisfied. Sometimes Asian low-cost airlines are hit or miss for me, but Jin Air is a definite hit in my book. Aside from app issues, everything went smoothly, and I don't think you could go wrong with choosing Jin Air for your Korean travels. I highly recommend them if you're considering it. On that note, that is all I have for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.